On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks sign a new player. What is Theo Pinson going to bring to the team?
And why is Karl Anthony Towns still a Timberwolf?
We'll break down that game and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Check out prizepicks.com. Use the promo code NBA. Go to your app store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Also, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can see our lovely faces right now on YouTube. We're climbing ever so quickly, slowly, trudging to 9,000 subscribers. Help us get there. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, let us know what you think, and also leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leave a question, we will answer it like we will this week. All right, and always joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor, writer, Mavs.com, the Dudley Dude, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
What is up? It's good for us to be back together. It's good to be back writing. I'm working on a story right now that having fun with. Was at practice the other day, hanging out with the team and just seeing them up close. We used to go to practice all the time back in pre-COVID days, and so it was good to be back at practice and see DA yelling
before we had jobs, right?
That's true. When I used to live downtown and all of that, but
we switched.
It's good. It's such a good. I was talking with Callie, being around that she gets, to travel with the team all the time, and she does such a great job covering the team on the beat writing world. But we were just talking about how good of a, good group of guys that's on the team. And it's just cool seeing those guys up close. Watch Luka finish working out, ankle looking good. That was on, I think, Friday, Thursday or something like that. So we'll see when Luka comes back, but they needed him tonight because that Timberwolf team, they could have beat them.
Mavs lose to the Timberwolves 111-105. They lose that game. We'll break down that game in this episode. The Mavericks also signed Theo Pinson because everything in the NBA is insane right now. Guys are going into health and safety protocols left and right. I think there's over 60 players that are in health and safety protocols right now, which means either they have a positive test or have been in the contact of somebody that had a positive test. Like, there's just a lot of guys that are in there. And so the NBA decided to, instead of pausing the season, instead of doing what they did, last year and straight up pausing the season in March, they are going to, they're going to just keep going, and they're going to allow teams to sign more than one player, which, there's a lot of angles you can take to this, but because of the vaccines, the boosters and all that kind of stuff, the availability of, information now about COVID, the NBA has decided that they're going to allow teams to sign replacement players for this next stretch. We're not sure how long it's going to last, but it seems like right now they'll be able to sign these players from now and through January 19th. So for the next month or so, it's basically like a 30-day instead of a 10-day, right? You're allowed to just sign these guys to come help your team. Doesn't affect the cap or anything like that. And according to Woj and Shams, they're reporting all this stuff back and forth. The NBA is allowing teams to sign one replacement player per each player that tests positive. So the Mavericks apparently had at least one player test positives. They're now allowed to sign somebody. They signed Theo Pinson. We'll talk about him in a minute. Now, the NBA is requiring teams to sign one replacement player if two of their players test positive. So you have to sign somebody if you have two players test positive. Now, the Mavericks have both Reggie Bullock and Josh Green in health and safety protocols right now. So this leads me to believe that at least one of those guys has tested positive, if not both of them have tested positive for COVID, because they have signed this new guy, Theo Pinson.
Yeah, just because of the roster math on this, in order to be able to sign him to the roster, which, Shams is now. We are saying this before the official Mavericks press releases went out.
Sure.
They could very well tweet out something and say, hey, Theo Pinson is being signed and one of the other players is being waived. But if there's not a player that's waived, it looks like under these new rules that were just tweeted out a little bit ago by Shams.
The timing is a little convenient if that's going to be the case, if they're going to waive somebody else.
Well, I'm just saying for the technical part of this, as we're recording this, Shams literally just tweeted out these new rules things like 10 minutes ago before we hit record. So, but Theo Pinson, I mean, as soon as I seen it, we were on here before we hit live, and I was like, Theo, because Theo's
a steal.
A steal. No, Theo was he was a Carolina guy, played on the UNC national team, won the Natty with Justin Jackson, our guy, and Luke May and Joel Berry, and fun team.
I just remember we used to call Justin Jackson Homeschool. Who used to call him Homeschool? Somebody came up with that name. I can't remember who it was. It was somebody like a national media member. But no, JJ Redick? I think it was JJ Redick called him Homeschool.
Did he really?
I think so.
But no, Theo on that team, he's bounced around a few times. He went undrafted and he signed with the Nets, went from like undrafted guy, then like exhibit 10, I think, to a two-way, then converted and stuck with them just for a bit. Then went to the Knicks, a little bit with the Celtics, now been in the G League. But he was like this he was this energy catch-all type of guy, Carolina, ran kind of secondary ball handler, playmaking type things next to Joel Berry. Justin Jackson on the wing, 6'5". He just always brought the energy. And that's why I was always rooting for him coming out of Carolina, because he was such a fun guy to root for in college. And he's so, his facial expressions, there's like clips of him on the bench in the league. He's going to bring a jolt of energy to this Mavs team that they need.
They desperately need. If you guys don't know, if you haven't listened for a while, Isaac is a UNC fan. He's a big North Carolina Tar Heels fan. So he follows these guys. He's known Theo Pinson for a while. He was literally like genuinely excited when Theo Pinson's name got brought up by Shams. And so that's the report right now that the Mavericks are signing him. The big question, I think, right now among some people is why not Carlik Jones? Carlik Jones is the guard the Mavericks had on their training camp roster, and he really showed a lot of people stuff. I was really surprised actually when they put Ja'Cory McLaughlin as the two-way guy instead of Carlik Jones. Carlik Jones, a little bit smaller, but a guard that can handle a little bit more. He can play make a little bit more than we think Theo Pinson. He can definitely shoot a little bit better, even though this season he has not shot the three ball as well as Theo Pinson in the G League. And so maybe the Mavericks are banking on that three-point shooting from Theo Pinson over the last couple of years. He's been about 39%. From pretty good amount of attempts in the G League over the last 3 years, where in college he was like at 25%. So it's a real improvement in that area of his game so far in the G League in his career. And so I know some people said, well, why not Carlik Jones? He's had some incredible games in the G League. He can attack the basket. We've already seen him with the Mavs. The Mavs need a guy that can create his own basket. I mean, look what Trey Burke is doing. Jalen Brunson's trying to do it all himself. Why not Carlik Jones, Isaac Harris?
Well, I think it's, the two guys you just mentioned, it's Trey and Jalen. I think if you had to, which, I know in this NBA now, nobody's in like really these defined lanes anymore, but Carlik's more the one. He's more of a ball handler type of guy. And I think if you bring Carlik in, then now I know some listeners are like, oh, okay, well, I would play him over Trey Burke. Well, yes, you would play him over Trey Burke, but I don't think this coaching staff is going to play him over Trey Burke right now or Jalen Brunson. But you look at a guy like Theo Pinson, and it's like, what's Theo? Theo's an athletic, energy, defensive type of wing. Well, guess who's not playing right now for the Mavericks? Josh Green and Frank Ntilikina. So that I'm not saying Theo's going to step in and play 35 minutes. I mean, he might not be on the roster in a month, but if you're just looking at type of guys in these type of roles, it's the Josh Green, Frank Ntilikina that they're missing right now that they're probably looking at and saying, hey, we need another guy on the wing, a 6'5" guy that can just play defense, give us some energy.
And I think with guys like this, especially guys just stepping in, just filling in for, like you said, maybe a month, maybe by January 20th, this person is not on this team, whoever fills this spot, if it's Theo Pinson or Carlik Jones or whoever. They need somebody that's been in the NBA a little bit, right? That's somebody that's been on rosters before, that's played in the NBA. Theo Pinson played a couple of playoff games for the Nets a couple years ago. He has been around the NBA a little bit, knows the system, and he knows one of the Mavericks pretty well. Has the same agent as Josh Green that you pointed out earlier. So there's a connection there, and yeah, I think all that is the reason why not Carlik Jones and why Theo Pinson instead.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll just see what comes of it. We'll see how, I mean, who knows? I mean, there could be more in the, I mean, that's the crazy spot we're in right now as a league. I mean, even the NFL too is, I mean, you guys know if you're getting notification on your phone, I mean, I feel like my watch goes off multiple times a day. I'm in meetings and it's like,
How many players have tweeted something along the lines of, we got to stop Shams and Woj? They're tweeting these COVID protocols like it's, free agency or the draft or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, you just don't. I mean, we've been watching from a Mavericks angle. We walked through a lot of this last year when handful of those guys, tested positive and all that last year, and there's like huge stretch of games there. And now it's, the Mavericks have kind of been a team that hasn't been affected by it so far this season. Now we're seeing a few. We'll see how it unfolds from here on out.
A lot to check out, a lot to see, a lot to know, but we have a game that we need to break down. Dallas Mavericks versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Mavericks came down to the end of it and almost pulled away from this one. Kristaps Porzingis went out with an injury. We'll talk about that. Nico Harrison talked in the middle of the broadcast, gave one of the first interviews he's done in a long time about the roster. So we'll talk about all that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Truebill. It helps you with all these subscriptions you guys have. We have so many subscriptions, and you're like, why did I just sign up for this thing that's going to send me random like knives and like random like colognes and random like things that I'm just going to put on my dresser and not know what to do with, right? Like there's all these just random boxes you can get that send you random junk that you maybe like one thing in the box and then you don't like anything else. Truebill will help you. It's a new app that helps you cancel those things, especially subscriptions that are super hard for you to cancel. Companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, and Truebill makes it incredibly simple. Just link your account to Truebill or cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. That's all you got to do. One tap. Don't fall for subscription scams anymore. Start canceling today at truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now. Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It can save you thousands a year. Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into this game a little bit. But first, I think we have to talk about Kristaps Porzingis. So Kristaps Porzingis leaves the game in the third quarter. I had him about the 5-minute mark. The Mavericks take a time, or the Minnesota takes a timeout. Moses Brown comes in for Kristaps Porzingis. It looked like just a regular, run-of-the-mill substitution. And they're just going to take KP out, put Moses in, and then Porzingis would come back in later. But then later in the game, Mavs PR tweeted out that KP is out for the rest of the game, right foot soreness. After the game, Jason Kidd confirmed that, yes, it was right foot soreness, but the x-rays came back negative. So there's no structural thing. There's nothing that happened inside of KP's foot. It's just soreness, which, hey, I know we're all frustrated and everybody's frustrated. You guys listening are definitely frustrated with Kristaps' injuries and the fact that he can't stay on the floor at times and the fact that, you can't get a consistent play from KP because he keeps going down with injury. You do not mess with foot soreness for a big like that, right? Especially a big that's had injuries like this. And so I understand them taking real like hard precautions on KP, especially if it's something like foot soreness.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point for KP, any lower body soreness, you're at least a little, worried about. And so, we were talking about before. It's like I didn't see any play in which he went down holding his foot or something.
I went back and watched it. I didn't see anything. There's a couple where him and Patrick Beverley kind of get into it, and then he's not really hobbling. He's just sort of like gliding around, but not really like putting a lot of pressure on his foot. It didn't seem like there's anything super bad where he was limping or anything like that.
Yeah, so it was probably something he tweaked a little bit, tried to play through it, and it was like, man, this is kind of like lingering a little bit, and then bam, he just stayed out of the game there. So we have zero updates on that moving forward. We'll just see how that unfolds too, because
yeah, by the time you're listening to this, you guys may know more about this than us, but it's just soreness at this point. So he may still be able to play Tuesday against the Minnesota Timberwolves again at home. That may still be a possibility for him, but we'll see. It's all kind of up in the air. Then the Mavericks play home against the Bucks on Thursday, and then that Christmas Day game on Saturday. So the Mavericks will maybe play it cautious through these next two games because that Christmas Day game is huge. It's the biggest day in the NBA, maybe the biggest day of the whole year. It's the time when everybody just kind of actually checks in for the first time with NBA. So you want to have your full squad out there. It's a big game for everybody. So
and it's we're still waiting to see what Luka's timeline is and how does that line up. If KP has to miss a game or two, is Luka back on Tuesday night? We don't know that, but if we start overlapping and then KP's out and Luka's out, it could get a little hairy for the Mavs a little bit.
Speaking of Luka, Nico Harrison spoke to the broadcast, spoke to us, I guess. Mark Follow was on the broadcast by himself because Derek Harper was not on the broadcast, but Mark Follow did an incredible job. Can I out you real quick?
What?
I texted you like almost the end of the first quarter, and I said, "Man, Harp is
Oh, this
killing
is
it.
me. This is me.
Harp is killing it by himself." And you're like, "Oh my god, I didn't even realize that it was just follow on the broadcast, and Harp wasn't on there." That's how good. It's how good of a job Follow did. It has nothing. I don't think it's anything negative against Harp.
Okay.
It was mostly just how good Follow is doing. Anyway, so Nico Harrison joins in the third quarter. Nico Harrison joins in the. I don't think Harp listens to the pod, so I think you're clear on that one. Nico joined the broadcast in the third quarter, and he's mentioned that Luka is not just getting healthy for his ankle too. It's something that he pointed out that we piqued our interest.
Yeah, well, he just mentioned that he's getting back into shape too. He's working out, and it's one of those things that I think we've all kind of like put two and two together on him being out these games. That especially when we watched him, last week. What was it? I guess Thursday night before that Lakers game, and he's going through full warm up before bouncing around, doing his thing. Tim McMahon's posting a picture on Twitter of like, oh, no ankle brace for Luka right now. And it's like, once I watch him go through the whole thing, I'm like, all right, like I get that's not the end all tell all of somebody can play or not. But the fact that they've already said, hey, he's not playing tonight and he's not going to do the road trip coming up in 4 days, it shows you that, hey, they're trying to get him back right in shape and stuff too, not just the ankle. So I'm glad. I mean, look, you look at these past 2 games. They, barely get beat by the Lakers. Another close, loss tonight. And it's like, it does show you a scrappiness to this team that, man, if they could have pulled off one of those games, you're like, man, all right, because now they're what, 2-2 over this last 4 that Lucas set out.
It makes me wonder, okay, does this team really just have no talent? Because that's what seems like a lot of people say. Like a lot of you guys listening will be like, the Mavs have no talent. They got none. Okay, well, they almost just took that Lakers team. They took them to overtime and almost beat them with LeBron, Westbrook, and Anthony Davis. That's talent right there. They went up against those guys. And then now with this team, Russell, whatever you think about him, and then Towns, definitely the best player on the court. They take this team and they almost beat him, save a couple of baskets in the fourth quarter without Luka and KP. So,
well, what is some of the fandom? Yeah.
The duality of a fan, right? You can say, well, this team
this
has no
roster sucks.
This
well,
roster sucks.
Win?
But why didn't we win this game? It's like, okay, well, you got to pick one. You got to pick one side or the other. And I agree with you. This team needs more talent. If the Mavs want to win a title, they need more talent. Absolutely need more talent. If they want to win a playoff series, they probably need more talent on this team. But this team doesn't have no talent, right? Like this team isn't trash. All these players aren't trash. There's a middle ground here. I think that we can land. But Nico Harrison, he mentioned that Tim Hardaway Jr. is a starter a couple times, which, it seemed to me a little bit of posturing, maybe in Tim's, like for Tim's case and to Tim, but then also maybe to other teams around the league that, no, we didn't move Tim to the bench. It wasn't a demotion. It was because, we needed to shake things up. He is a starter. That was another interesting thing I thought Nico Harrison said.
Well, I think it's so I was talking to, doing one of the story that I'm working on. And I was talking to an assistant coach the other day, and we were talking about the verbiage that happens with the coaches, this coaching staff with these players. And I'll share this because it's not going to be in the story. He said something that the coaching staff does, and something that Kid has referred to in the past. He said, it's not a going down to the G League. It's a going up to the G League. Now, I don't know how.
Is that because it's in Frisco and it's north?
I don't know, whatever.
It's north of Dallas.
He just used that as an example of like how you frame things. And I think that's a tiny example of that with Tim of, hey, it's not a demotion type thing to the bench. Like you're still a starter in our eyes. We just had to take, you're still one of the best players on the team. That's basically what he's saying this. You're still one of the best players on the team. We just had to, shake it up a little bit, move some rotations, around and all of that. So I think it's a brilliant move from Nico's part with Tim, but also to anyone else around the league that's listening, saying, "Oh, Tim's still a starter. They just needed to."
Okay. It wasn't a demotion. Okay, I don't feel as
Jason
bad about
Terry,
it.
yes, he came. Okay,
Tim, that Tim, he went off. He hit 28 points, 6 boards, 6 assists in this game. I don't know. He starts hitting his threes for us, maybe. Our home run fence is shorter in our stadium, so maybe he'll start hitting some. Isn't that so weird? Can you imagine if the NBA had rules like the MLB, where like
Shorter 3-point line and like
the shorter
Milwaukee
3-point line
or
in certain
something.
stadiums. Yeah, the last thing I listened from Nico Harrison I thought was interesting was Follow-Up mentioned a couple of times that this whole new regime has said Christmas is probably a good time to evaluate the roster. And Nico said, yeah, Christmas is a good place to evaluate, but we've had so many injuries. And so I'm not sure we're getting the full overhaul of everything that some fans want, that some of you guys want, which of like, all right, we got to make some major moves. Nico didn't say anything like that. Now, I did not expect him to say anything
I was
like
gonna say,
that.
what would he say? Yeah,
Right.
we evaluated last week.
Yeah.
Changes
And
are
here's
coming.
the thing on that. I know a couple people were frustrated with Nico's interview and said, well, why didn't
Were they really?
Yeah, there's some people on Twitter that were frustrated about Nico's interview and said, well, man, it's not encouraging to me. He's just saying, okay, well, there's so many injuries, using it as an excuse, not really saying anything that, the Mavericks need to make moves or anything like that. Are they just going to stand pat? He's just a mouthpiece for Cuban, like all this stuff I've been seeing. What is he supposed to say on the broadcast of the team, right? Imagine that you had a broadcast and a TV show for your job where you have to talk about the people that work for you that you hired, and then you have to talk about the people you work with, right? It's not going to happen in that venue. Now, maybe he goes on a different interview and says something else, but I don't think it happens on the broadcast. So for those of you that were frustrated with that, I can understand if Nico had said something like, you know what? We have a lot of work to do. Like, look at where we are at this point. We got a lot of work to do. I think people would be less upset with him. He decided not to go that route, but here we are with it. So, all right, coming up.
Let's get into his personality too. It's what else can he say? Also, it's his personality, and it's just like, I mean, he could have said anything.
The other thing I pointed out, so a couple people said, well, he's really bad on a broadcast. Nico Harrison has not been a public facing person in his job for a long time, right? He's the guy that's sort of in the shadows, like next to Kobe, next to these Nike guys, that hasn't done like press conferences. I think he said his introductory press conference for the Mavs was his first press conference he ever did, right? Because it's not like he went to a big college or anything like that. It takes a little while for you to get the smooth talking like GM after doing a bunch of these for a while. And he has not done a lot of these interviews so far this season for the media or whatever, in scrums or whatever, anything like that. So it's going to take him a while before we start hearing the Nico really comfortable in the media type person. When you heard Donnie was like, I got this. I've been doing this for decades. I can go up and I can say stuff. I can have sound bites and say things that you guys will appreciate and all that stuff. But Nico's not there yet at this point. It's just a different part in his career, different point of his career. But coming up, let's get into this game. Let's actually talk about how the Mavericks blew this game, because they did. They absolutely had a chance to win this game. Luka out, Kristaps Porzingis out for almost all the second half, and they blew this game. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. It's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They're absolutely delicious. And oh man, factory second sale. This is an incredible opportunity for you guys right now. Go to the website, built.com. They have this huge thing, factory seconds. That means the factory has made more than they expected of certain flavors, and you can go get them for less. You get a free gift with every single purchase. Go check them out right now. Gingerbread, Paranormal Pumpkin on sale right now. Go check them out right now. Those are the new arrivals. Check out all of the normal flavors as well. Mint brownie, cookies and cream, the coconut almond. People love those flavors. Raspberry, cherry barcia, some of my favorites. Go check it out, built.com. That gingerbread one, 140 calories, 17 grams of protein, 5 grams of sugar, and a bar covered in 100% chocolate. They're absolutely delicious. Go check them out, built.com. Promo code LOCKED15 if you want to get 15% off your entire box at built.com. Also, let me tell you about BetOnline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to lose money betting on Tom Brady after they got destroyed by the New Orleans Saints. A really weird game. But you can bet on the NBA right now. Listen, if you're betting on the NBA right now, I was going to say,
you can DM me.
I was going to say, let's start a support group. But if you are, Grizzlies, 8.5-point favorite over the Thunder right now. If you guys want to put some money down on that game, use the promo code locked on, and you'll get 50% welcome bonus. Go over to football, though. They got a whole bunch of odds like that as well. A couple of you guys overseas, they have some Lithuania odds, Russian odds, South Korea League, Israel League, lots of other things. Go check it out, betonline.ag. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Get a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Isaac Harris, let's end here talking about how the Mavericks lost this game, because, man, it felt like at times, okay, they just got to get this going. They just got to do this. They just got to come up with this board. They just got to hit this shot. And the Mavericks almost pulled away with this game, even though Luka didn't play. Porzingis was out for most of the second half. Karl-Anthony Towns was playing. D'Angelo Russell was playing. They basically had their starting lineup for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were missing Okogie and they were missing Anthony Edwards.
I was gonna say Anthony Edwards is a big.
That's a good call. They did not have their starting lineup. They were missing 2 starters. So
arguably, their second
arguably their best player. Fair. Okay, fair. But they had 2 of their quote unquote stars, and they had a lot of guys. But
D'Angelo Russell getting that Kyle Kuzma star ribbon.
He made an all-star team, right?
He did.
Him and KP are stars in the same way, right?
Wow.
Yeah, right? Like that would take you a minute to answer that question.
I can't go down that route, not live on a pod. So
No
Pat Beverly's still really annoying. I didn't realize how annoying Cat. It's just me. I don't.
Here we go. All right, we're going down this route.
Possibly. I know the zag you're gonna throw at me, and I don't know how to counter it. But I just want to throw this out into the void. I didn't if you were a fan of the Timberwolves. This sucks because I know what you're about to say.
Just do it. Go for it. You already started down. No edits. Hashtag no edits.
I just don't know how it would be to root for him every single night.
I don't know either.
He's going to get traded to the Mavs next week. I would be super happy about that because he's really good. I just didn't realize how annoying he is as a player sometimes. And
doing what?
Just go ahead.
Isaac, we hit record, or before we hit record, Isaac was like, man, Towns just falls down all the time and acts hurt, and then he gets up and he's fine, and then he just whines to the refs all game. I'm like, man, does that not sound super familiar?
He's not Luka. Get off of him.
No, he's not. No, he's not. But I don't think
Davis.
Mavs fans have the you can't complain about all the things that Towns did in this game because Luka does the same things.
Except Luka is more accomplished.
Fair. Yeah, fair. Definitely a way better player. I mean, I'm not saying that.
Half the amount of time. How long has Cat been in the league? I don't know.
Fair. He was in KP's draft, so.
Or Cat's just I am so fed up of being in Minnesota. This is just how I am now. But
guys, do you see how cold it is here? You guys have been here one day.
I wonder if him and Anthony Davis bond over, hey, we went to UK, but who falls down more?
I was gonna say if they work out together over the offseason, who falls down in a workout?
But all that joking aside, he is so dang good. He's not the greatest shooter in the world, despite what he thinks.
Man, we have so many ways to come at him in this.
Greatest big man shooter in the world. Somebody slip him some highlights and footage. I don't know if it's frozen in Minnesota.
Karl-Anthony Towns said he's the greatest. He thinks he's the greatest big man shooter of all time. And I think,
are you top 5? Are you top 10? I don't.
Shut it down.
Yeah, but no. I mean, the biggest thing. I mean, I know we're pressing for time, so I want to hit on the biggest thing for this. We both made a note about this in the game. You text me about it. I'm like, oh, dude, I've already wrote it down. One of the biggest struggles for Dallas in this, and it's the bigger storyline of a secondary creator, is Brunson would get the switch with Towns guarding him, and he couldn't beat him.
Yep.
And
over and over, 4 or 5 times in key moments in this game.
Yeah, and Towns isn't, I don't think Towns is making an all defensive team.
Unless Greg Logan's voting. Nope.
He is voting.
But
boy. That's the thing. There were just too many times Brunson couldn't take advantage of that. It wasn't a mismatch for Brunson, in favor of Brunson. And that's really what hurt him tonight. And I know Brunson played, he had 18 points, 11 assists in this game. But when that secondary creator talk, that conversation is going, you got to have another guy that can beat somebody like Towns off the dribble. And Brunson just couldn't do it tonight.
That's what we're talking about, right? That kind of a moment is when you become that secondary creator the Mavericks need. Can you take advantage of a mismatch? Can you take advantage of guys and drive past them and create your own shot in all kinds of different situations. Brunson can create his own shot. It's just not in all kinds of situations. It's in some situations. It's in playing against bench units where bigs are slower and he can get them on that little move that he drives into the paint and he stops and he turns around. And I think he got Naz Reid or somebody. He got one of the bigs on a really bad one where they just like completely fell for the fake and then their chest ran into him and they fouled him and he got to go to the free throw line. But it's if he can't take advantage of that, can he take advantage of a guy that maybe knows how to move his feet a little bit better on defense? And he just isn't at that point yet. I think he had a great game other than that, but if he could just take advantage of a couple of those mismatches with Towns, the Mavericks win this game. I'm fully there. The Mavericks could have won this game because Dorian had an incredible game, one of his best games of the year.
Let's go.
We are
love that guy.
Like admitted Dorian stans. Like we love Dorian. No one else told me anything bad about Dorian.
Was there any Dorian slander on the timeline tonight?
I don't think so. 23 points for him, 3 boards, 2 of them on the offensive end, Isaac. And then 3 assists for him, a steal. He hit 3 threes out of the 5. He hit both of his free throws. He was just all over the place. He was doing really well. Tim Hardaway Jr. finally had a real bounce back game. He missed a bunch of threes, but still 28 points, hit a lot of his mid-range jumpers, which are really key for this team, especially with Luka out. So 28 points for him, 6 boards, 6 assists. He had the quote of the night afterwards. Our friend of the pod from Mavs Moneyball, Luke asked him, so, Tim, is there anything that you guys can do to, what do you guys need to do in the offense to get more consistent scoring over these quarters? Because the Mavericks scored 38 in the third, and then they scored 17 in the fourth. And he's like, if I knew, I'd tell you, boss. Love that quote from him.
Great. Shout out to Luke with a festive Christmas tree in his background on Zoom.
He's had those lights up for months, I think. Got lights up all the time. But yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith kind of carried them in this one. Brunson at times, and Mavs just couldn't close it out. They shot 12 of 41 from 3. That's 29%. That's still not good. Still the same problems. But the Mavs.
Shout out to Maxey. Maxey, 14 boards and 1 tech. I'm all here. I'm all here for a Maxey tech.
Maxey's tech was literally just slamming the ball, and they called it a tech, which is just an automatic tech. I saw a couple people say, well, that's the weakest tech I've ever seen. If you slam the ball or if you do the thing that, the Kristaps in the playoffs where he threw his arm at the ref, those are automatic techs. They just are.
I have a every once in a while, you get like an opposing player crush. You see a role player on another team.
And it's not like, Towns?
No. Even though Towns would be great on our team. But
can you imagine him and Luka together?
Jared Vanderbilt.
Oh, yeah.
Fun guy. Fan of him coming out of the draft, coming out of Kentucky. Love his energy. Dude hustles. I mean, yeah, I like that guy.
You know who does not like Jared Vanderbilt, and Jared Vanderbilt does not like him, is Dorian Finney-Smith, because those guys went at it all game.
That's a bummer, too, because I love both those guys.
It doesn't mean that. I mean, Matt Barnes played with Kobe. Like, anything can happen in the NBA, right? Doesn't mean that they're foes for life.
He also played with Derek Fisher. But no.
Jared Vanderbilt did. In this game, that's kind of what it came down to. There was all kinds of weird ref stuff. The Timberwolves team, I felt like they got multiple techs in this game. They were just really upset. They were up 10 at one point, just like railing on the refs for not calling things. And the Mavericks had
Shout
a
out
chance.
To Balmero playing in this game. Another guy Dallas liked.
Yep. The Mavericks had a chance. They were down 3. Sterling Brown, a pull-up 3, a miss. Sterling Brown's first game back in a while after being out with injury. He could not hit. He hit 1 3 in this game, and he could not hit anymore. And that's sort of the story of this game, is Mavericks just not being able to hit threes. Again.
I don't have anything else to say about this game. That's that. I tried really hard to think about what Finch or
Chris Finch,
Timberwolves
coach,
what movie character he reminded me of, but I tried really hard. He reminds me of some character in a movie. I'll think of it at some point. If y'all have anybody he looks like, send him to me.
Let us know in the YouTube comments. That'll be the random thing. Chris Finch, the Timberwolves coach. If he reminds you of a movie character, let us know in the comments. Guys, leave a 5-star Apple Podcast review on Apple. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.